I just wanted to let everybody know before we start the call that we did get our probiotics in last night, and we had 41 different cases go out today of back orders. So everybody's got their back orders on their way for probiotics.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Get that friendly flora, people, with the fructose,
Yep.
oligosaccharides. And we're going to talk about that, not tonight, another time. I believe we're going to be speaking about the detox. Is that correct, Ron? Daily detox today?
That's correct. And probiotics will be next week.
All right. Awesome.
And boy, if you're into probiotics and all the internet crap that's out there and everything else, and you think you know something about probiotics, you better get you and all of your friends that think you know something. I'm going to really educate you, and you're going to find out you don't know much of anything. So next week's call is definitely one to hop on to, because probiotics are still #1 selling supplement in America today.
Awesome. I did not know that. And I just want to say welcome to each and every one of you. This is Dover here in Seattle, Washington. We're taking introductions for the Enriching Gifts Education Call. It's Wednesday night. It's January 27th. We're here each and every week to educate, to share, to empower, to uplift you, the listeners. So we have our host for the call, Mr. Ron K. Schneider, online. He will be talking with us tonight. For those of you that are listening in and heard that little blurb about probiotics, that will be next week, as he said. So, but tonight we're in for a treat as well. One of the products Ron will be speaking about is the Daily Detox. I'm excited about that. Ron, I want to say welcome to you. Appreciate you taking the time that you do. We have others joining us as we speak, so I want to say welcome to them as well. But thank you. Appreciate you, and I'm glad you're on your road to recovery and excited about the call. Welcome to the call.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure of mine to be here each and every week, because as you know, and most people that have been on these calls, I'm all about education. And your life only going to make sense if you understand it. And we all got here because of certain choices we made and this and that. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands why they're doing and what they're doing with these supplements, and how it's going to help their body in great detail. And that's what I want to do, is help educate people about how their body functions. And, if you understand your body and give it what it needs, it can fix itself. And with that being said, and I want to talk about every single product I've ever talked about, whether it's Enriching Gifts or some other company's products and formulas. Products do not treat, prevent, cure disease or illness. They don't. All nutrients do is activate the body's ability to function. And that's the problem. Most people don't get a good quality enough nutrient or a decent quality enough diet to get nutrition to support the body's natural functioning processes that are already genetically designed to prevent, cure, reverse, and get rid of disease and illness. So, and I've always said, you've never ever died from a disease. You've died from a compromised immune system, which usually leads to some kind of nutritional deficiency. And that's just the facts. That goes all the way back to Christ and even before he was born. The immune system is your key to longevity, to quality of life, quality of health each and every day you live. It's all about the immune system, and it's all about nutrition. So you're always going to hear me talk about nutrition first, way before drugs or anything else, because that's usually the culprit. That's the problem. And we talked a couple weeks ago about the enzymes. The biggest problem people have in getting nutrition from the food source to the cellular body is you just deteriorate in your body's ability to produce enzymes. Every decade you live your life from birth to death, your body starts producing 8 to 10% less every 10 years you live. So by the time you're in your mid to early mid-40s, you've lost over 50% of your ability to digest whatever it is you consume. Organics, nutrition, supplements, drugs, whatever, it doesn't matter. And the older you get, the worse that problem becomes. And that's where your immune system, your cellular body, your liver, your metabolic organs, your kidneys, lungs, so on and so forth, everything starts to deteriorate because you no longer have adequate nutrition to maintain a functioning body. So again, I just want to repeat one important fact. We're going to talk about nutrition for the next 6-7 weeks. We're going to talk about Enriching Gift products and all the different ingredients and the quality and the standards that go into them. But do not be confused. None of my products treat, prevent, or cure any bodily illness or disorder. Only your immune system can do that. and your body's genetically designed to cellularly reproduce itself every single day until you no longer breathe. So that process is just like breathing in and out as you go through sleeping and your blood's pumping all day. We don't have to worry about it. It's already all involuntary. So I want to talk about the daily detox, because again, the first 5 products we're talking about in this program are the fundamental 5 to optimum health. And what is the fundamental 5? There's 5 very distinct categories or systems that make up over 95% of the human functioning body. And it wasn't just me that kind of discovered this and pulled this all together. I had 12 other scientists and researchers and chemists and head of the Ministry of Health of countries and so on and so forth. That's the kind of caliber of people that brought this whole program together. But the enzymes, that was definitely my baby. I had that before I ever met any of these other 12 scientists. But we just kind of really broadened ourselves out and improved on identifying really what are the needs of the human body and what needs take precedence over other parts of bodily function. And so you had digestion as the absolute number 1 priority metabolic functioning role of the human body. Nothing supersedes it. Nothing uses as much energy as that process. You could take 50 to 70% of all calories consumed are used up and expended by the human body just doing the digestive process. 50 to 70% of all calories consumed in your meal are used up doing the digestive process. And then comes the immune system. You can have a great functioning body, but there's so many things that can attack it and deteriorate it and make it diseased very quickly. So you're only going to be efficient at functioning as long as you have adequate protection. And that's what immune system cells do, is they give the body protection and they eliminate the things that would potentially damage or harm the human body before they ever get a chance to do that. So that's what allows your cells, once they're produced and reproduced, to continuing functioning at a very high level of efficiency. And that's the human immune system. That's what gives your body the ability to do that. And then third is addressing daily toxicity. And you have to address daily toxicity because, again, most of the world does not use a digestive enzyme. Most of the world is over the age of 18 years old. Most of the world is at least 40, 50% deficient in their ability to digest enzymes in the adult world. Simple facts. These are facts. These aren't ideas or some blown up crazy old thought process or hypothesis or theory. These are facts. These are actually scientifically proven facts today now. So when you take all that into hand, one of the reasons why the human body becomes so toxic is not only because the environment we live in with lead and arsenic and smoke and cadmium, all kinds of fertilizers like the Roundup and stuff like that, but there's also this internal war that goes on. Pollution in the water, pollution in the air. We have this whole internal body that's got bacteria, fungus, yeast, candida, all these things just are constantly raging in people. And then it's even compounded by, again, your lack of your ability to digest and completely and properly process the diet you're consuming each day. So your body does become toxic. Well, where does all that toxicity end up? It ends up being stored in your liver and your kidneys and your major metabolic organs. And even when I talk about toxicity, I'm talking about oxidized LDL cholesterol, the storage in your artery walls, and even in the lower chambers of your heart and lungs. Can even be stored in your brain, creating blockages and impaired circulation of blood, which you actually start to go into like Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that. Most of that is caused not by just aluminum accumulation, but also plaque buildup, restricting blood flow in brain vessels. So it's really important to address toxicity because we have toxicity coming into our bodies each and every single day. Even the waste products that's not being expelled from digesting our meals that get hung up in the body, that oxidize. Uric acid that becomes crystallized from your protein meals. All that's going to get stored in your kidneys, especially your gallbladders, and can even be partially stored in the liver along with calcium deposits. So there's always toxicity coming in the human body on a daily basis. And, when Bernard Jensen was around, he was a big, huge guy about colon cleansing and toxicity and all that stuff. And I had actually personally met with Bernard on a couple different occasions. And I said, why is it that we allow our body to become so toxic? How come there isn't somebody out there doing something to create a daily digestion or a daily detoxification program? Why isn't this being addressed every meal, every day? And there were a few companies out there. There weren't a lot. Mostly it was fiber companies. They had a lot of different fibers and things like that. But they didn't really have too many herbs and stuff like that. It kind of came in at the beginning of all of that. But I certainly wasn't the only one. But what I was concerned about was, how do we get results without having to deal with all these diuretics that just make you go diarrhea and make you all jittery, like the Ma Wang and the ephedras and stuff like that. And Ma Wang, ephedra is not bad, but when you concentrate ephedra into a 200, 300, 500x, that's called Ma Wang, which is a severely highly concentrated form of ephedra. And that's what was banned because of people having heart attacks and all kinds of jitters and the way it affected the central nervous system in the human body. They actually took that off of the market. And because it was being abused by baseball players, a lot of them, it would really increase your oxygenation by dilating your arteries as well as your lung tissues and bronchial tubes. So bottom line is, I don't want to keep going sideways. I want to get to the point of this, but you have to address the toxicity that comes into the human body on a daily basis. And it's that problem that we created the daily detox to address. And our daily detox has a few herbs in them, and I'm going to start going down one by one and try to explain the benefits. And the first one, you'll notice it's almost the highest one, aloe powder, and it's from cut leaves. And this is the same concentrate. It's a 500 to 1 concentrate that we use in our Aloe Ace Max. We use it in here because aloe is a thing that helps the cellular body to reproduce itself. And here it's actually isolated to the GI tract. And I know that most people on this call hear about leaky gut, colitis, Crohn's, irritable bowel, so on and so forth. Well, that's all damaged tissue, all of it. And so we actually have this in a blend here because it's more isolated to the actual GI tract because of what it's formulated with. It's not instantly absorbed into the rest of the body via the bloodstream like the Aloe Ace Max is. And there's a good dose of it. You notice it's the number one ingredient on this. So it accelerates the healing of the damaged tissue of the GI tract wall. And then the next one is barberry root. And barberry root has been shown to have really good digestive qualities as well as detoxification. It also has some anti-parasitic and some real high antioxidant values. So again, you kind of reduce the oxidation, the damage to tissues through the oxidation. But barberry root is really good for parasites. Now, I've always said when people call me and they want to start talking about parasites, oh, I think I have parasites. And I'm like, well, what kind of parasites do you have? Well, they're just parasites, the things that kind of feed off my. And I said, no, there's all kinds of different parasites. So let's first agree what a parasite is and which one specifically are you trying to address. Is it a hookworm? Is it a liver fluke? Is it a roundworm? Is it a bacteria? Is it a fungus? Is it a mold? Because those all feed off of different parts of your system if there's enough damage. So that is going to help to not only address some of the parasitic stuff, but it's also good. It's a soothing agent for the digestive and the GI tract as well. And then you have fiber. One of the biggest reasons why people get so backed up and so toxic is because they don't have enough fiber in their daily diet. So we have the psyllium seed powder. And psyllium seed is one of the best fibers that you can use through the GI tract. Now, it does create some gas in people. Some people have a tough time with it. But again, this is maximum grind. It's the smallest amount of powder you can grind it down into. Most people don't have a problem with this, and it's a maximum grind fineness so that it can expand like a swollen up piece of cotton or a rubber ball just soaking up water like a sponge. This can literally expand itself, the psyllium powder we have in here, to about 3 to 4 times the size of that capsule. And it just soaks up water. And the benefit of that is, if you go back to the National Cancer Society and the American Heart and Lung Association, they say that over 50% of all cancers that are involved in the GI tract in the human body can be prevented just by taking 25 to 35 grams of fiber each and every single day. Think about that, 25 to 35 grams, not milligrams, grams of fiber per day can reduce your risk of intestinal cancers and disorders by almost 50%, just by taking fiber alone, 50%. So you think about one of these people, and I learned this from a doctor out in New Jersey, very popular doctor way back in the late 80s. And he identified that with root canals and breast cancer, if you had any dental work, you were likely to develop breast cancer over your lifetime. And then he also did this exact same study on this. He said if you're chronically constipated, and what is chronically constipated? Where you have 2 or more days out of a week to where you don't have a bowel movement. That's chronic constipation. Because a really good digestive, efficient body that's functioning very well from a proper diet being consumed for the genetic enzyme production that person has, you should be able to consume a meal and eliminate that meal within 10 to 12 hours. And a vegetarian diet should be able to be eliminated within 4 to 6 hours after it's been consumed. So how many people literally can take a whole can of kernel corn, yellow corn, and eat it, and then literally see that corn in the toilet 6 to 10 hours later? Try that sometime, because that's going to tell you how long is your elimination or transit time of a meal from consumption to elimination. And anybody that doesn't see that corn in anything less than 12 hours, your body is toxic. You don't see it for 12 hours, or some people don't even ever see it at all. I've actually talked to an aerobic instructor, didn't see hers until 2 weeks later. 2 weeks. So imagine that. And this is a vital, young, healthy, very, very active person. But that's how crappy somebody's, literally, pardon the pun, that's how crappy some people's genetics are and their digestive capabilities. So you have to address that, because all that's going to do is create a disease, really poor quality of life down the road. But this whole fiber thing, that's why we have the psyllium seed powder in there, and it's ground powder, very, very fine, maximum grind powder, because that will absorb moisture and expand. And why is that important? Because every 3 to 4 days, your body produces a fine, snotty little film. It's called the mucosal, and it's a mucosal layer. It's mucus. And your body produces that it actually surrounds and secretes the entire GI tract wall, and especially in the bowel area. Why would it do that? Because it actually mixes, when the fiber comes in through the diet, it scrapes that clean, and that little mucus film is what puts a barrier between the fecal matter or your waste that's going through your GI tract and your bowels from pressing and compressing it into living tissue that's made up of the GI tract. That's that little snotty film. That's what that's produced for, to prevent your bowels from pressing into living tissue. So that's a barrier. But that barrier has to be cleaned off on a regular basis. If you do not, you'll end up like John Wayne, where you got a 2-3 inch thick wall of nothing but mucus. And you're not going to absorb nutrients through that wall. You can't absorb nutrients through that wall. And eventually that mucus is going to start coating those little dangly villi in the small and large intestine, where most of your nutrients absorbed from the GI tract into the bloodstream. They're going to start surrounding all that and closing it all up. Fiber takes care of all of that. So that's the reason why everybody should really focus on getting a minimum of 25, and I say as much as 40 grams of fiber a day. More fiber is not going to hurt anybody. And the second thing that fiber does, it not only scrapes the GI tract mucus off the GI tract wall, it also provides a bulking agent. That's what prevents your stool or your bowel movement from compressing together, actually creating a much thicker bowel movement, which slows the bowel movement down, creating constipation. And the second part of that constipation I wanted to reference to, people that are women, not people, women that are chronically constipated more than 2 days out of a week, you're 5 times more likely of developing breast cancer over your lifetime. 5 times increased risk, a 500% increase of risk of developing breast cancer over your lifetime just because of chronic constipation. Think about that. I want you to think about that seriously as a woman. I don't care what age you are. If you are having problems eliminating your bowels and you're not having bowel movements at least once or twice a day, if you're eating 3 meals a day, and more importantly, do that corn test. How long is that bowel movement actually in my body? Oh, I just ate. I had a bowel movement. Oh, great. You're probably full of crap, literally, from top to bottom. And that bowel movement you just expelled might have been in there for 2 weeks, might have been in there for 10 days. Certainly a good chance it was in there 4 or 5 days. And in any case, all of that, you're toxic as can get. And that's going to eventually push through your skin, push through other areas, push through organs, back up organs, and you're just going to start accumulating all these disease and deteriorative disorder conditions just because of not properly eliminating your bowels, not being able to clean your bowels every day, your GI tract. So it's really important, and that's why we have the psyllium seed husks in there that are really fine ground powder. And then you also have Cascara sagrada bark. Now, this is not the root. This is from the bark, which is a much, much lighter, less stimulatory type of ingredient. I like Cascara sagrada, but I also wanted it from the bark, a much, much less diluted or a much higher diluted form as far as stimulation from the GI tract comes. Because Cascara sagrada, if it comes from the root, it's very concentrated, and it almost is just like taking a laxative on a daily basis. This doesn't have that many milligrams in it, plus it's a mild cleanser. That's why we're able to do this as a daily detox. If you get it from the root, you're just going to constantly be in diarrhea all the time. It's just too much for the human body. And so we got it from the root source, which slowed all of that diarrhea occurrence and stuff way, way down. And I'll talk about how to start and take this properly when I get done with the ingredient list. So Cascara sagrada is there because it stimulates increased mucus, which is a lot more slimy, a lot more liquidy, so your bowels move a little bit faster and more regular. And that's why Cascara sagrada is in there. And yes, it does have a tendency to turn your bowel tissue a darker color, but that's just the stain. That's because of the nature of Cascara sagrada itself. It does not affect the functionality of your tissue, contrary to what some gastroenterologists might want to make up and believe. There's never been any science, anything anywhere that says that darkening of the tissue somehow is damaging to your tissue. It's not. So when you go in for your colonoscopy and they see, oh, well, you've got some real dark tissue in here, well, I take a root. Okay, that's okay. Okay, I got it. And that's about all the conversation you're going to have regarding that. Turkish rhubarb root. And I don't know why we left the name Turkish rhubarb out, but that's the exact kind of rhubarb that it is, not rhubarb like your plant. It's Turkish rhubarb root. And this definitely kills parasitic eggs. Like if you have liver flukes, you have any kind of a bacterial roundworms, hookworms, any kind of a bacterial parasite, this will kill it. Kills its eggs too. It doesn't just kill off the parasite, it kills off the future parasites. And that is probably one of the best killers, not reducers, an actual killer for any kind of parasite that's going to live within the GI tract of the human body. Turkish rhubarb. And this is a extract, and I can't remember the percentages exactly. It's not a real high one, like only an 8x or a 10x, but it does come from the Turkish rhubarb root. Then you have senna leaf. And again, senna is just kind of like another type of fiber, but it also is a soothing agent. It helps to relax the tissues. It's going to give you a much healthier GI tract tissue system. And then slippery elm bark. Slippery elm is just one of those herbs that overall is really good for digestion and intestinal health. And again, it's from the bark, so it's very mild. Again, I don't want a bunch of concentrates and extracts to overstimulate any part of the natural functioning or the mucus release where you got constant diarrhea all the time. And then last but not least is cayenne pepper fruit. And cayenne pepper is a fruit. A lot of people don't know that because it has seeds. But we use cayenne pepper in here to actually dilate the vessels of not only your arteries and your veins, but also your vessels of your GI tract tissues. And what that does is it speeds up blood flow. It also increases blood flow. And it actually does this by thinning the blood. Now, here's the reason I say this last. If you have a peptic ulcer or some kind of a bleeding ulcer, you might not want to use the Detox, because the cayenne pepper can actually thin your blood, increase your bleeding wherever your bleeding is occurring. So that's the one thing I'd kind of caution people. Now, if you've got colitis, Crohn's, irritable bowel, leaky gut, unless you have some really good bleeding with that, I mean, where you see blood in the stool in a liquid form, not a clotted form, then you might want to hesitate a little bit on using the daily Detox. But if you don't see any bleeding and you still got Crohn's and colitis and all, this will actually help to promote the healing process of that. And it does that by not allowing you to get constipated and actually press outward your stools. They go through you real easy. They're soft. They're not hard. They're not nearly as large, and you're real regular. And that's going to take a whole lot of stress and deterioration off of your tissues that make up your GI tract. So just wanted to bring that out and kind of talk about the daily Detox. This is a wonderful product. I've used this on and off myself personally whenever I'm out driving my big old motor home, and that looks like that's going to kind of come to an end after this year. So I don't have to worry about those long drives of 10, 12, 14 hours driving every day anymore. Because just sitting, and I used to get constipated, and I had a problem where I wouldn't go for a couple of days. And when I did go, it was very, very large, very hard, and just from sitting driving for 14 hours, then you sit in front of a microscope for the next 10, 12 hours, it's going to catch up with you. And I know the reason why it caught up with me, but I didn't want to be taking daily Detox and be on the pot, not knowing when I'm going to be able to be on the pot 2, 3, 4 times a day. This will clean you out, and you want your body to be cleaned out. So the best way to use this is just start out with a single capsule once a day, once in the morning. And if you're one of these people to where you're a 3-day or 4-day wonder, you only have one bowel movement every 3, 4 days, I'd start out with 2 in the morning and then just gradually increase that for 1 every single day. And it might take you a week before you actually see a bowel movement let loose or anything. And if it gets real diarrhea, stop for a couple days and then just take 1 single tablet. And if you don't have constipation problems, if you do have 2, 3 bowel movements a day, then I would say this product isn't for you at all. This is for the people that are chronically constipated. This is for the people that have GI tract diseases and disorders. This is for the people that have bowel movements of less than 2 a day. Because if you're eating 3 meals a day and you're only having 1 bowel movement a day, think of what that looks like at the end of 30 days. You've got at least 20 days worth of meals backed up into you, and it's so tight that you can't even pass it. So that's what the Daily Detox was developed and formulated for, to get rid of the toxicity that's naturally inherent in almost each and every one of us by either our diet, poor quality of our diet, our environment, And it's just to help the body get on a regular basis of eliminating waste. And when you eliminate the waste, there's usually nothing for the parasites to feed on either. So it's very, very hard to get candida and mold and bacteria and stuff like that built up in your system because there's nothing for it to feed on. If you get constipated, boy, there's all kinds of food for parasites to feed on and exist on. And that just accelerates the growth of them, which makes it much, much harder to eliminate and get it under control. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about as far as the daily detox goes. And like I said, if you're a person that eats 3 meals a day and you're having 2 to 3 bowel movements a day, you shouldn't even need that product. But do the corn test, because this is really important. Do that whole kernel corn test. Eat it with your largest meal of the night, preferably with some kind of meat, either beef or chicken or pork. But take the half, if it's 16-ounce can, use half of it. But it's whole kernel corn. Del Monte's a good brand. Eat it with your meal, and then see how many hours or days later it takes before you stop seeing that whole kernel corn in your poop. You will see it. Nobody's that good at digestion to where they're not going to see whole kernel corn. And most people, honestly, don't sit down and chew 25 to 30 chews for each spoonful of corn you're consuming. So you're not going to break it down with your teeth. Your body certainly doesn't have a left over to break it down. So you're usually going to see your whole kernel corn, but that's what I tell people to use in order to determine their actual transit time and elimination time of a specific meal. And so when you're eating that at night, you should be able to see that partially come out before noon the next day, and you definitely should see it, the last part of it, within 24 hours. But like I said, it only takes 12 hours for that meat to become toxic and food for parasites. So you want to try to get everything within a 12-hour time frame from consumption to elimination. But at least if you do this test, you're at least going to see how efficient your overall digestion as well as elimination process is. It's called the whole kernel corn test. And I'd encourage everybody to do that at least 2, if not 3 times a year, just to make sure you're on the regular. We're all going to go through and adapt, change. We're going to adjust as we get older, as we go through different phases of our life. And when you start to get at my age where you're 60 and over, boy, things really start to change and slow down. I noticed that for myself specifically. And I've never, ever used to take daily detox. Now I have to take it a couple times a week. When I start slowing down, the next day I take a couple, and boom, by that afternoon, there I'm going. So we have this help to keep the body in a very highly efficient functioning state, but you got to do the things you need to do in order to maintain that. Because if you don't, your health will suffer on a long-term basis. So that's well, I want to talk about the daily detox for tonight. So I want to open up the call for live questioning if you can, Dover, and we'll just start taking some questions if anybody has any, or comments, either way.
I have a question. This is Susan.
Yes.
If a person is regular 3 times a day, but they had parasites in their live blood analysis, would it still be beneficial for them to take daily detox?
No, what you'd want to do is you'd want to take the enzymes and the probiotics to get rid of bloodborne parasites. Because even though the probiotics do nothing to get into the bloodstream, they'll destroy it, because almost all the parasites that you're seeing in the blood, the parasitic bacteria and stuff, it's all because of what's being held up and consumed in your daily diet that goes through your GI tract. Like when you say, again, let's get specific, what parasites were you actually seeing in your blood test? Was it just simple bacteria? Was it L-form bacteria? Was it some kind of a yeast, candida? Was it fungal form, which is a form of mold? What particular type of parasites were you actually seeing in your blood test?
Yeah, it's for my husband, and I don't remember what kind. It was just I think it was when Lachelle did it was like a number 2 parasites, and she said, do something,
number 2. Well, first of all, let me tell you, number 2 isn't bad. That's
Okay.
normal. 1 and 2 is normal, first of all. Number 3, it means it's getting a little bit high. It may or may not be affecting your overall health. 4 and 5 are definitely going to be affecting your health, and they need to be addressed. But if it's just a 1 or a 2, it just means that there was 1 or 2 things present. It doesn't mean you have to really have anything that needs to be addressed.
Okay. All right. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Anybody? Don't be shy. Come on, speak up. Okay, well, G. Dover, do you have anything you want to contribute to this at all? Dover?
All right. Can you hear me, Ron?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I was on mute. Yeah, I do have something to contribute. Great call. Detox. I'm glad you talked about the staining because I've heard that in the past. I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is, can you take detox for too long a period?
You mean, will your body to become dependent upon it or something like that?
Yeah.
Your body can become dependent upon it, but normally the bodies that do that, they're really broken down bad and they're struggling with their natural genetic protocol of functioning. And so sometimes your body, yep, you will have to go on it. Yep, you probably will end up staying on it in order to keep your body functioning in a fairly efficient manner. And I've always been one to say, hey, I'm happy to do that. I just want my body to be able to function the way it's supposed to function. And if I need help to do that, and we all do, because this conversation came up in the enzyme conversation. Oh, you don't want to take outside source enzymes because your body will become dependent upon them. Well, your body was designed to be dependent upon outside source enzymes participating in the digestive process. Your body was never genetically designed to produce even 60, 80% of the enzymes for digestion. If you're doing that, you're robbing enzymes from someplace else. Because the human body genetically was really only designed to do about 20, 30, 35% at the most of the digesting of a food source. All the other living enzymes in a raw food source being consumed, those raw enzymes in the food will actually participate and digest the majority of the food source once you start chewing on it. That activates the enzymes in there. And then you get them in the body temperature, where it's just nearly 100 degrees, much, much different than in a store shelf or a refrigerator or something like that. You're actually accelerating the enzymatic activity once you start to amalgamate by chewing with your teeth, the food source you're consuming. So can it become dependent? Very rarely, but if it does, it means that your body really, really needs it. And I know of a couple gals that have had breast cancer multiple times, and as long as they stay on the detox and the enzymes, they've never had a problem with it. The minute they go off of it, their breast cancer's back within 60 days. And I know one gal that's gone on and off, on and off, on and off 5 different times over the period of about 8-9 years. And every time she tries to go off the products, here comes her breast cancer back. As long as she stays on it, no cancer. So again, like I said, there's very specific nutrition and very highly concentrated forms in these products that the human body needs, especially at an immune system level with our Steromax and our enzymes, in order to function properly. And without them, it just can't do it. So can they become dependent? Possibly. Highly unlikely, though, but definitely I wouldn't use them any more than what you need to use them. Just like anything else, just use it as needed.
Sure. All right. Another thing you said, Ron, and if anyone has a question, please, unmute yourself and speak up. But the other thing you spoke about was the, I'll call it oral pathology. So root canals in the mouth and breast cancer.
Oh, yeah.
And so I recall, and I believe it was an event that both of us were at in Mexico. But there was a particular doctor that talked about the same thing. And
Yeah. This was totally another doctor out of New Jersey, and the one that we had in Cancun, I believe he was somewhere out of New Hampshire, if I recall right. But yeah, there were several different people that I've heard reference to root canals and surgery, oral surgeries popping up with direct. Everybody that's had one has breast cancer. I mean, it's nearly 100% with the guy that I was talking with.
Yeah, so I was just when you said that, it took me back to that time, and I guess my question is, my understanding was something to the fact that there's a dead bone being left in the body and some other things, but at the end of the day, what I guess there's a disconnect for me. What's the correlation between a root canal and actually the body, going into a state of cancer?
Well, if you have enough dead tissue laying around, you're going to accumulate bacteria and different parasites, and parasites will damage an area of the body to a very high degree. And that's going to alert the immune system. And eventually, if you got enough damage, then you're not going to be able to, if you have enough damage done, then that's going to lead to a cancerous condition through mutation. It's kind of like when you ingest chemicals. Chemicals can change the DNA of the human body through damage. And when those cells start to replicate, that's when you start creating cancerous cells. And it's the same leftover waste. And it's even the drugs that were used during the surgery. That's the chemical that can actually damage the DNA of the human cell and create cancerous growth. Cancer cells are not just oxidative damage. There's a lot of different chemicals and things that will damage the DNA of the human cell. And that's what a cancer cell is. It's a DNA damaged cell that replicates itself faster, and it has no major control mechanism on its functionality. So it literally, and by the way, cancer cells don't damage other healthy cells. How cancer grows is it literally crowds out the healthy cells. It chokes them out by its very expansive, rapid growth. And cancer cells grow typically 4 to 5 times faster than a normal healthy cell. So they crowd out and suffocate out through blood flow, oxygenation, all that kind of stuff. They crowd out healthy cells, and eventually the DNA damaged cells take over. And they're not healthy, so they can't run and regulate the metabolic organs of the human body. Not an area, not an organ, not a lung, a heart, a brain, kidney, whatever. They're not good at functionality. Those DNA damaged cells has lost the ability to carry out the functionality of that tissue. And that's why you die from it, because it loses the capability of functioning. But how it's damaged, there's a lot of different things that can damage DNA of the human cell and cause a cancerous growth. Like Roundup, for example. There's a perfect example. That's a chemical. And that chemical can damage healthy cells and create a cancerous growth. So I don't know if I'm directly answering your question, Dover. I'm doing the best I can. But like I said, you can't just put your finger on one thing and say, oh, well, that's what causes breast cancer. Or you can't just say it's the surgical procedure itself that leaves a dead, damaged, largely damaged bone tissue in your mouth either. There's chemical used in that, and there's a lot of different things that go on in the healing process that may or may not take place. And all of that, it can be contributing factors to cancer growth. And as we all know, cancer can metastasize to any part of the human body. So we go ahead, we have our oral surgery, we use the drugs, the DNA damages, and all of a sudden it shows up in your breast or your brain or your kidneys or your liver. It can metastasize, meaning to travel to any part of the human body. And wherever there's a weakness, either through inflammation or restricted blood flow or severe tissue damage, which prevents your immune system cells to get there, that's where cancer has the ability to take a foothold. And that's why, like I said, one of the most toxic parts of the human body is the bowels. So intestinal health is extremely important. That 25 to 40 grams of fiber every day, you can eliminate 50% of all cancers just by increasing fiber. But what are you increasing fiber? What is that fiber doing? It's actually accelerating the removal of bowel movements and all that toxic waste in your GI tract tissues from the body. So, just little things on a regular basis make a huge, huge difference. But like I said, I'm not sure whether I answered that real clearly for you or not. And if I didn't, just kind of ask it a little bit of a different way, and I'll try to be more concise about it.
No, you did absolutely. And at the end of the day, it was more about not necessarily that how it works, but just that you heard what I heard in Mexico, and obviously you've
Oh
heard
yeah,
it from different
yeah,
sources. So
yep,
yeah,
yep.
confirmation. And at the
I
end of
definitely remember Cancun too. Yeah, absolutely. I remember one of the main speakers up there on that subject. Now, I didn't hear his presentation. I actually talked to him the Sunday before he left. But yeah, I remember who you're talking about.
yeah, and no, and the staining of the detox, that was I've heard that. We've had some family members that have been on the product for a while on Leilani's side that had that experience. So that was some clarity. So thank you. No, that was all the questions I
Yeah.
had.
Okay. Anybody else on the phone? Got any last minute questions for the call tonight? Anybody? Comments? No?
And
We're all
some
good?
of you have been muted out, so just make sure if you're muted, unmute yourself and ask away, please.
Yeah, just star 6 to unmute yourself.
And if you're on your phone, your tablet or laptop, there's a microphone in the bottom left of your screen, and if you tap on that, there will be a red diagonal line, and so you can hit that and unmute yourself.
Hey, Ron, this is Susan. Hey, your talk was really
You're
nice.
always
And
good. You're always good for a question or 2 or 4. I appreciate it.
I
Thank you
try,
very
I
much.
try. Well,
Yeah, you did.
I work with a lot of women, and constipation is a huge thing with them. So it was very helpful. I was taking notes. So I'm going to share this with a lot of women. So I just want you to know that you're helping a lot of women too. So very, very helpful. I really, really appreciate it. And I do have one question. Is there probiotics
Yeah.
in yet?
Yes, they are. In fact, you must have came on the call a little bit later, because at the very beginning of the call
did.
tonight, just so everybody knows, our probiotics did come in last night. We drove
Perfect.
180 miles to come home to ship them out first thing this morning, and all back orders have been shipped.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. Keep
So,
up the good work. I
yeah.
enjoy it.
Well, I'm trying. I'm really trying. But that brings up something else I wanted to start talking to everybody about, because I just noticed that our enzymes, we've already went through over half of our enzymes that we got in November. I've still got 4,000 bottles left, but and I put in an order for another 10,000 bottles just January the 5th or 6th when we got back from Las Vegas, and I just put in another order for Sterilmax, and unfortunately our turnaround times, because this COVID-19 crap, is almost 8 months. So everything that I'm ordering now, we won't even see until the beginning to the end of August. And I know I'm going to run out of that stuff before then. So you might want to just think about ordering a little bit extra. Don't go crazy. You don't need an 8-month supply and stuff. But you do want to, if you have a business and stuff, you might want to think about stocking up a little bit on this stuff while we have everything in stock. And we're running a little bit low on daily detox right now, but we've got another order coming in. It should be here by the 1st of March. So that should be fully replenished, and everything else we got a good supply on. But, the fact that it's taken me 8 months to get stuff in, I don't know how anybody can manage and run a business on an 8-month out inventory roll and stuff. And I've tried to increase my orders as much as I can. In fact, most of my orders I have a 1.5 to 2 year inventory on, based upon my last year's sales or my last 2 years sales. And it's not working. I don't know what to do. I mean, I only have a limited amount of space for a warehouse, and I just don't have enough room to order 3-4 years in advance. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think that's going to plague us all the way through the summer again too. And like I said, I've started this year off a lot better than I did last year. But this COVID-19, if everybody's following that, you'll see that England, France, Germany, Sweden, Finland, Japan, they're all locked down until the end of March. You can't get any shipments in or out. and you can't even fly in or out of these countries, even on an airplane, let alone raw materials and stuff. So I just think that this is going to be a problem with us going through this year as well, too. So I just want to give everybody a heads up on that. Don't go crazy. But it shocks me the amount of inventory that we're moving. Like I said, I got 10,000 bottles of enzymes in November, and we're just barely into the end of January, so 3 months. And I think I'm good 40, if not halfway through that whole wall, I'll say. It's a big, long, 22-foot wide wall, and the ceiling's at least 10 feet. And I got 3-4 rows deep all the way through that whole wall, all the way to the ceiling, and it's over half gone. So just want to put that out there to everybody. Don't want to see anybody get cut too short. Because just like the probiotics, how many months did we have that on back order? And got in a big order, but, that's one of the number one sellers out there along with enzymes. And like I said, this 8-month turnaround time, it's just crazy. I just don't know how we're gonna manage stuff that far out. It's 2, 3, 6 months. I could do all that real easy, but this 8-month stuff is really getting hard to kind of figure it all out. So anyway, great call. I really appreciate everybody. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Ron, I have a quick question about the probiotics, I guess, and then combining them maybe with the enzymes. I was looking at different ones like to go after fungus or candida, and a lot of them I see they have chitosanase to break up the biofilm or eat through the cell wall. Do you have something like that in your enzymes, or
Yeah, absolutely. But more so in the enzymes, like I said, there's a lot of herbs in our daily detox which are going to kill all of your mold and your different bacterial type of parasites, even the eggs of liver flukes, hookworms, roundworms, all that stuff. It's a really good parasitic bacterial killer formula.
Okay, because
and you don't need to take a whole lot of it. Yeah, you don't need to take a whole lot of it in order to kill all of that stuff either. You could use it about once every other day, once every third day, and that's enough to kill off eggs and anything else if you use it on a regular basis.
Awesome. And my other question is then, would you just combine maybe one probiotic and one enzyme together for that type of purpose?
Well, actually, our probiotics already have enzymes in them. We already have the digestive enzyme formula in our probiotics.
Okay.
Specifically for that reason you're just talking about.
Okay, perfect. So when I ordered,
rather than taking enzymes and probiotics together, you might just want to take an additional one more probiotic because you're getting additional enzymes in that.
Yeah, I don't have the probiotics as of yet. I ordered a couple days ago. You didn't have them in yet. I'll have to get those.
Yeah. Well, they're all. Thanks. Anybody had an order in and it's on back order. All your orders shipped out today.
All right. Thank you.
So you betcha. Thank you. And next week, you definitely want to come on that call because we're going to talk about each individual strain and specifically, not necessarily the source that it comes from, but the enzymatic profile that's within that bacterial source. That's what makes probiotics work. So we're going to get into a real nitty-gritty conversation next week that you probably have never, ever heard, and I guarantee you never will hear because most people in the probiotic industry, including the largest grower in the United States, of raw material probiotics didn't even know this, had not even had a clue. So I know the rest of the industry doesn't know about it. So anybody and everybody wants to really get a great education about all the different probiotic strains and which are good, which are bad, and so on and so forth. Be on the call next week. It's going to be a great call. All right. Why don't you close it out, Dover? I think we're done.
Nice. Thank you, Ron. Awesome call. Appreciate you. And I'm going to shut up because I can keep it going for another hour if I ask you more questions. I'll just say, hey, I'll tap out. You did great. Thank you. And I look forward to probiotics next week, rather.
All righty. All right. Well, don't forget your questions. Bring them up next week.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Have a good one.
You bet. Take care. Thanks again. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.